Businesses fleeing California. Gavin Newsom suffers another loss when it comes to the Second Amendment in federal court. And Karen Bass says the quiet part out loud in an ABC interview that she completely flubbed up. All that and more coming up on tonight's episode of the California Underground podcast, starting right now. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the California Underground podcast. I am your host, Phil, the most trusted podcast for all things California politics. We got a lot going on the show tonight, including all the businesses that are fleeing California, including the CEO of In-N-Out, who said she's moving out of California. We have Gavin Newsom, who suffered another loss when it comes to the Second Amendment in federal court. Karen Bass saying the quiet part out loud of what she really thinks of immigration, and more secrecy going on in Sacramento. That's all coming up tonight as part of our story lineup. If you're new here, make sure you like, share, subscribe, review. That helps everybody with finding the algorithm and all that stuff. So let's get started with our first episode, or first topic of the night. In-N-Out on its way out. Well, not really. I mean, In-N-Out is going to stay here in California. The corporate headquarters are going to stay here in California. Obviously, In-N-Out itself is not going anywhere. It is an institution of California. If you know anything about California, In-N-Out is as much California as Hollywood or the Golden Gate Bridge. It's literally, when you think of California, you think of In-N-Out. But the CEO went on a recent interview to talk about how hard it is to do business here in California. And I think she has a point, and a lot of people are freaking out about what she's saying and pretending that it's not anything to worry about. But there is definitely more to that than I think is being led on. So let's get right into that.
Well, if you're having trouble finding a job, you are not alone. The latest job numbers show California is now tied with Nevada for the highest unemployment rate in the country. The state's unemployment rate went up slightly over the past month to 5.4%, but that is still above the national average. You're seeing it right here at 4.1%. NBC Bay Area's Alyssa Gord helps us understand why this is a uniquely difficult time for job seekers.
It's so challenging.
Dylan Keone Nepomuceno is grateful to have a job, but the San Francisco resident has friends and family who've been laid off.
I know some folks that are still trying to find work right now.
He says he wasn't surprised to hear the new federal job numbers, which have California tied with Nevada for the highest unemployment rate in the country at 5.4%. Michael Bernick, an attorney with Dwayne Morris and the former director of California's Labor Department, thinks factors like hiring costs, uncertainty about tariffs, immigration, and even AI may be playing a role.
The numbers aren't showing an increase so much in layoffs, but we are seeing that employers are putting in abeyance or freezing hiring decisions.
And some people told us while they're grateful to have jobs, they're feeling the impacts of their employers not filling vacant positions. California did see some job gains in areas like private education and health services, but had a net loss of 6,100 jobs in June.
I was thinking of taking internships first because I feel like I need the more experience.
San Francisco State students told us they are looking for ways to stand out in this job market.
Especially here in the Bay Area, and especially for white-collar jobs, it is more competitive than I've seen in 47 years.
Bernick says it's a tough time for job seekers. The good news, jobs are being added, but getting them may require a lot of patience. Alyssa Gord, NBC, Bay Area News.
Well, regardless of what Lou Reed says there in that video, I think there's a lot of things outside of what he's saying regarding immigration and AI. Those are the reasons why we're seeing job losses. He doesn't really want to tackle the real issues of why California is seeing unemployment and why businesses are leaving California. But of course, he's from the Bay Area, so, he's not going to want to talk about the real reasons that California is facing all this business exodus and the higher unemployment rate. It is interesting that the only jobs that have been added are healthcare, because when it comes down to it, they love pumping as much money into healthcare as possible when it comes to state contracts and stuff like that. But as it says right here, the unemployment rate did rise 0.1 percentage point to 5.4, which now is like the highest rate in the U.S. So for as much as Gavin Newsom and the Democrats here in California love to tout how California is the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world, we now have the highest unemployment rate in the country. And remember, if you compare sort of the purchasing power, there was a study done, if you compare the purchasing power of California, how expensive it is here, actually California falls down to 11th, right ahead of Italy. So it almost doubles in going down the scale as opposed to what they think of this fourth or fifth largest economy. And they try to paint this picture of it being so prosperous and all that, but in reality, there's a lot under the hood. Now, I want to get to this In-N-Out CEO clip because she does bring on, and this has been going viral, so I want to discuss this real quick.
New this morning, the head of In-N-Out has revealed she's moving out of California. For now, the burger chain's headquarters will stay here, but the company is building a new eastern headquarters in Tennessee. A large number of corporate employees are also relocating. The burger chain's president and CEO, Lindsay Snyder, says her family's move does not take away from her love and appreciation for California.
Raising a family is not easy here. Doing business is not easy here. Now, the bulk of our stores are still going to be here in California, but it will be wonderful having an office out there, growing out there.
Snyder's comments and the move have drawn some backlash online. Some In-N-Out fans see it as a betrayal of the state that built her business. Snyder took to Instagram trying to clarify, writing, "We're not leaving California or leaving our roots behind. Moving into Tennessee provides our In-N-Out associates wonderful opportunities to buy a home and raise a family and be a part of our expansion in a different part of the U.S."
So that drew a lot of backlash because people were like, oh, poor lady who was a billionaire, she worth $6 billion, she has to run out of California. It's so hard being filthy rich in California. This is being obtuse about the real issue here in terms of taxation, regulations, how hard it is to run a business, and also how much they try to soak the rich when it comes to income and taxation here in California. So it makes sense that someone who, I mean, if you're chasing away the CEO of In-N-Out, a quite literal California corporation that is like so stereotypical California, it's embedded in our culture, that's pretty bad. That just shows that the business and regulatory and taxation scheme of California is so unfriendly, not only on a business level, but on a personal level as well, that the CEO of a California institution is willing to just move all the way across the country just to get away from California. Now, this is something that I want to bring up as well, because we all saw this coming when they passed the higher minimum wage for fast food workers, because it kept going up and up and up. First it was 16, then it was 18, then they got to $20 an hour. They did see that there is a drop in fast food workers. It cost the state roughly 18,000 jobs, according to a new report by the National Bureau of Economic Research. MBER reports that the pay bump from 16 to 20 an hour appears to have backfired on employees, with the state's fast food sector experiencing a decline in employment by 2.7% or 18,000 jobs compared to other parts of the country. In-N-Out, notoriously known for paying its employees even better, so it can't be that, but it is sort of everything that I just want to get into. Fittingly, there was a new study done by the Public Policy Institute of California, and they just completed this and put it out. So this is really interesting for me to look at. There are some key takeaways from this that I want to dive into regarding this. Our company headquarters leaving California. So there is obviously this momentum and exodus of companies leaving California. And there are some figures and graphs I want to point out here. And the Public Policy Institute of California, they do really good work. So when they put something out like this, I know they've done their homework. So that's why I wanted to kind of bring this up to you. So this first graph you can see right here is companies headquartered in California are increasingly moving out of state and jobs are leaving with them. So In-N-Out is not a good example because of the fact that they are still leaving their headquarters here in California. But when you think of like the Teslas and then like Facebook and other companies that are moving out of California, the Silicon Valley, those big tech companies that are moving to Austin and places like that, those places are moving out. And there's a lot of headquarters that are moving out. So you can see relocating to California, that line is going down precipitously. It keeps going down. And then you have relocating from California, which is going up. And then you have the cumulative net loss in headquarters and headquarter jobs. And then it keeps going up and up and up. So you can start to see that there is a trend. It's not going the way that Gavin Newsom wants it, or the California Democrats in Sacramento want it to go. Let's go down a little bit more. So these are headquarters that relocate from California, tend to move to large or nearby states. No shocker here. Texas seems to be the biggest recipient of all these California refugee companies, Tesla being one of them, who moved out to Austin. I think Facebook or Meta also moved out to Texas. Nevada, right across the state lines. New York, which was interesting to me. I was surprised that there was movement to New York. Florida, Arizona, these are all states with better taxes and less regulations. Jobs at headquarters also relocating. Again, Texas, Florida, and you can see some of the other states. Virginia, Virginia has Glenn Youngkin, so that's possible. New York, I'm still surprised that New York is taking a lot of corporate jobs and corporate headquarters away from California. Headquarters leaving California tend to choose states with lower taxes and less regulation. So the most important thing to them is regulations, less taxes and less regulations. That seems to be the driving force for a lot of these, which makes sense why In-N-Out moved their headquarters, well, not their headquarters, they moved to another part of Tennessee, another office, and then you're seeing other companies like Tesla who are moving out to Texas. And again, you get to see more of this as well. There was something else I wanted to dive into. One more thing. I think it's down here. No, I think that was everything I wanted to show on that. So as you can see, business is not friendly here in California. The scheme of California is not friendly to businesses. And I think the reason In-N-Out is getting so much backlash, or the CEO of In-N-Out is getting so much backlash, is because it's almost more personal to Californians, right? It is this idea of this California institution is quite literally palm trees and cars and drive-ups. That is such California quintessential culture that the idea of the CEO leaving and opening another office in Tennessee, while not moving the headquarters, she's not moving the headquarters, it does feel like a kind of a wake-up call to a lot of people. If you're scaring away the CEO of In-N-Out, a California institution, how bad is California? As we've seen, we have the highest rate of unemployment in the U.S., tied with Nevada. We have horrible business regulations and taxes, higher corporate tax. We have higher income tax for a lot of individuals, especially those like CEOs. So they are taking their wealth and leaving. There's more opportunities in these states like Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Florida, all these other states, Tennessee, that offer way more opportunities for them to thrive and do their business. And that's the one thing that I think Democrats in California don't ever think about, is that businesses can move, businesses can leave. They're not stuck here. They are not chained to California where they cannot go anywhere. If you push hard enough, businesses will leave. And I think In-N-Out is probably the largest alarm bell for a lot of people in California, that if the CEO is publicly saying she's moving out of California and she's opening a new office location, that is probably the biggest thing to show that California really needs to change its business friendly attitude, or not business friendly attitude, and get with it before everything falls apart and unemployment skyrockets and all of business starts to leave and head for the exits. All right, welcome on everybody. Thank you for tuning in live. Everyone who is tuning in, thanks for hanging out with me in the chat. Somebody said Cali hasn't built a new oil refinery since 1976, and the rest are closing or moving out. Yep. Yeah, that's a problem that we talked about. Now, the state does think that they want to start getting back into that. 100% regulations and crazy laws are forcing businesses and families out. Yep. Yeah, I mean, if it makes sense, it's business sense. Like if you're going to make better profits and you're going to go somewhere where it's less regulations and it's easier to run your business, you're going to move out to these other states. So it's kind of a no-brainer. But In-N-Out, I think, was the biggest one that does push people to go, wait a second, how bad is California if the CEO of In-N-Out is leaving? Well, not the corporate headquarters, but her leaving, I think, sparked a big backlash. So, all right, next story. Gavin Newsom continues to suffer court losses over the Second Amendment because I guess he just doesn't understand that it shall not be infringed. And it's right there in black and white. I want to get to this story recently. This came out this past week. So if you are a Second Amendment advocate, a court blocks ammunition background checks in new blow to California's gun control framework. So there was a law that was passed years ago, back in 2018. So this was really a long time ago. In 2018, before the law went into effect, a group of gun right advocates and ammunition vendors sued to block the law. It's been hanging around for a long time. So this gives you an idea of how long, just by passing these laws, this is really the infringement. Is they pass these laws, they get tied up in courts for 5 to 6 years before we ever get a ruling on any of these Second Amendment cases. And to them, I guess they feel like that's a win because they've prevented you from really exercising your Second Amendment right. The article goes on to say, today's ruling helped clarify what a post-Bruin future could look like. Given the fees and delays associated with California's ammunition background check regime and the wide range of transactions to which it applies, we conclude that in all applications, a regime meaningfully constrains California residents' right to keep and bear arms. Justice Sandra Segal-Ikuta wrote in the 2-1 majority opinion. Newsom, in a written statement, criticized the decision, quote, strong gun laws save lives, and today's decision is a slap in the face to the progress California has made in recent years to keep its communities safer from gun violence. Californians voted to require background checks on ammunition, and their voices should matter. Now, let's keep in mind here that why the timeline is important is because this was voted on or passed into law in 2018. There was the Bruin decision that came out recently in the past couple of years. So the Bruin decision had a lot to do with carrying a firearm out in the public, and did talk a lot about the historical precedent of the Second Amendment and your right to bear arms. And that opened a lot of opportunity for Second Amendment gun right advocates to take a lot of these California cases to federal court and say, you are violating this standard under the Bruin standard, which is this new historical precedence, and what was the intent of it. And that does change a lot of things. So when it was originally put into law, Bruin was not into effect. And now with Bruin in effect, this changes a lot of things. This goes on to say, the background check law is different. The appellate court ruled because it meaningfully constrains people's ability to purchase ammunition, which previous Ninth Circuit decisions have found is foundational to a person's ability to own guns. In court, the state's attorney also proposed that California's ammunition sales law conform to the United States' historical tradition of regulating guns, citing colonial-era laws or laws written after the Civil War. In a fiery dissent, now a dissent is when one of the judges doesn't agree with the majority and they just want to, have their 2 cents heard. They're useful. Dissents have their place. They can make some good arguments that maybe somebody picks up later. But sometimes in dissents, it's just they want to get it off their chest and kind of complain about the majority. In a fiery dissent, Judge J. Bybee said the decision failed to correctly apply the Bruin test, and that using the logic of the decision, any firearms regulation could be interpreted as a violation of the Second Amendment. Great. That sounds sort of like what we've been talking about for a long time, is shall not be infringed and all these regulations. And that's what the Second Amendment kind of stands for. And the Supreme Court paved the way for this with Bruin. I mean, if that's what he thinks, great. That's good news for all of us. Then a lot of California laws should really be struck down based on that. Quote, it's difficult to imagine a regulation on the acquisition of ammunition or firearms that would not meaningfully constrain the right to keep and bear arms under the majority's new general applicability standard, Bybee wrote in the dissent. Well, you don't throw guns at people. You need ammunition. That's sort of the point. They kind of go, it's like bread and butter. They kind of go together. You sort of need the ammunition for a gun to work. You can't just throw guns at people. I mean, you could throw a gun at a person, but it's not as effective as if you actually had ammunition. So Gavin Newsom suffers another loss regarding the Second Amendment. He has been suffering, several losses again and again, especially with this new Bruin decision. Now, there are a couple other laws or cases that I want to bring your attention to right now, and that is Nguyen versus Bonta. They struck down California's 1 gun a month law. So that has been struck down by the Ninth Circuit. Miller versus Bonta, which is still ongoing, was filed in 2021. A federal judge in the Southern District of California declared the state's ban on assault weapons unconstitutional in 2021, argued that it violated the Second Amendment. It's still pending, but based on this whole new Bruin decision, we probably could see some movement on that. Carolina versus Bonta, 2023, still ongoing. Senate Bill 2, which is probably the most egregious to me, is Senate Bill 2, where they basically tried to restrict your complete use of the carry and conceal principle. You would not be able to carry and conceal. I am not joking when I say, as a carry conceal permit holder myself, I looked at the law, and basically the only place you'd be able to carry and conceal is the sidewalk in front of your house, maybe walking to your car, and that's about it. Everywhere else would be prohibited. Restaurants, stores, everything would be prohibited. Everything's a sensitive place. So that's what they did with SB2. SB2 was also passed in sort of retaliation for what the Supreme Court came out with Bruin. Basically, they said, well, if that's the standard about sensitive places, and then we're going to make everything sensitive. Likely this will get struck down because it is such an affront to the fact that Bruin came out carrying concealed. Now, even though he is facing a ton of losses and he continues to file these frivolous lawsuits regarding the Second Amendment, did you know Gavin Newsom is no enemy to the Second Amendment? That's right. He's no enemy to the Second Amendment. He's a friend. He loves the Second Amendment. He respects it, loves the Second Amendment. I want to show you this clip right quick from a recent podcast he did.
Is this an accident? I got to report this gift, man.
That is a California compliant Sig Sauer
this
E365 macro.
Come on, man.
I don't know exactly what makes it.
By the way, this is too cool. The fact that you would give me this.
You
can't
like
even
that?
look this up. So you just want me to TSA to take this from me and my ass is arrested at the airport. I'm on to you, man.
Well, I got a buddy at SIG, and now he was like, you got to get a SIG in his
You can't
hands.
even make
Name's
this up.
Jason.
Brother, this is fabulous. You know what? Last thing people would expect is that I respect this gift.
Really?
I appreciate. Yeah, man. I'm not anti-gun at all. I'm for.
Well, first off, I don't have a prop. This is the best I can have. But anybody else find it funny that he holds the gun like it's radioactive and icky, and he holds it like oh look at that, oh, a gun, thank you. And at one point he actually flipped it around with the muzzle facing Sean Ryan, which anybody who's in the chat or in comments knows what's the number one rule of gun safety is you do not point your firearm at something you do not want to destroy. So him flipping it around, oh, it's really nice. Hold on. It looked like he didn't know how to handle it. I've never seen anyone hold a gun like this, like gingerly like this. You can tell he doesn't really handle a lot of firearms. And first off, is this whole I'm not anti-gun. I know you're floored. To hear Gavin Newsom say he's not anti-gun. We'll get into it more with a little bit more details.
Some gun safety, common sense that I think vast majority of folks on the right and the left agree. And I think we've lost a little touch with some common sense around background checks. I think there's an age appropriateness. I do have some, I'm challenged by large capacity magazine clips in urban centers and weapons of war that are out there, sometimes outgunning the police. And I've experienced that directly with the loss of a police officer who was gunned down by an AK-47, and the police were outgunned in Bayview Hunters Point in San Francisco.
Couple things here. So he says he's not anti-gun. He's for common sense gun law. He's for common sense gun safety, for background checks. That's always something Democrats say is the background checks. Anytime you go purchase a firearm, anyone in the chat, you want to let me know, raise your hand, say yes. How many times have you gone to purchase a firearm and had a background check? right? How many you've all had to do it. Like that is part of buying a firearm is a background check. You have to go through the DOJ and everything. It is literally the first thing they do before they even sell you the firearm. That this whole idea that there's no background checks and that people are just walking in and buying stuff off the street, which leads to the second point of, well, if you're buying a gun with no background check and you're buying an AK-47 that is illegal and not allowed in California, then that is a problem of illegal gun running that has nothing to do with legal gun owners, who are probably the most responsible gun owners and the safest gun owners because they don't want to lose their right. So where did they get that AK-47? You're conflating crime and gun running with those who practice their Second Amendment rights properly and care about gun safety. And that's something Democrats always do, is they make it sound like, well, it's just all these crazy gun nuts are out here able to get all these weapons of war and stuff like that. That's why we need to put all these restrictions on. No. It's not the people who are pro-gun and are actually really responsible. It's usually the criminals and those who are running guns that get their hands on these illegal guns that you want to ban.
But otherwise, man, people have the right to bear arms, and I got no ideological opposition to that at all.
Do you think...
Bullshit. Excuse me. Sorry, I got something in my throat. I should probably take a drink of water.
I was going to, by the way.
You're welcome.
That's crazy. Last damn thing I expected. I expected a hat. Okay, you gave me a goddamn gun.
Well, I got another gift for you too.
You? Okay, all
but
right.
But diving into the 2A.
Remember, he's a man of faith, and he loves to say "G damn." That's the man of faith, Gavin Newsom, right there. He loves to drop the G damn. All right, well, you heard it right there. Gavin Newsom respects and loves the Second Amendment, and these are all just common sense. This is all just common sense stuff that he wants to implement. I mean, come on, you look at it; it's all common sense, and he's a friend of the Second Amendment. And he doesn't think what he's doing is too crazy. He loves guns. I mean, he's a big Second Amendment guy. I'd love to see Gavin. I don't think I've ever seen footage of Gavin Newsom shoot. If you remember back in 2008, they posted some cringe footage of Barack Obama trying to shoot skeet. Like they put him out somewhere and they gave him the little orange shotgun and they made him like shoot skeet. And they're like, oh, look at what a manly man he is. He can actually shoot a shotgun, stuff like that. Wait until you start seeing the videos of Gavin Newsom shooting and how awkward that's going to be. You know, he's going to have to learn that you can't hold a gun like this. You're going to actually have to grab it. But I want to take a look at all these common sense things that Gavin Newsom, friend of the Second Amendment, right? He's a Mr. I love the Second Amendment, respect it. Let's take a look at this. I did my homework, and I want to just show you the laws that were signed in by Gavin Newsom regarding gun restrictions. So let me pull this up right here. Did my homework, made a nice little art project for you. So let's see, this is starting in 2019. These are all signed. These are all signed into law. Let's see. I'm trying to sale of firearms precursor conducted through a licensed vendor, prohibits the sale of firearms in San Diego County at Del Mar Fairgrounds. Strengthen the regulation of firearm storage, gun show regulations, keeps going on. Limits the purchase of semi-automatic rifles to 1 gun per month, regulates the sale of firearm, adds restrictions on ghost guns. That's a big thing that they always make up about these ghost guns. Authorizes private, well, I want to pause right here. Authorizes private lawsuits against those who import, distribute, manufacture, or sell illegal firearms. Basically what they did with Texas in the abortion law. So that was another thing that they did in retaliation. California loves to pass these in retaliation. So this is stuff signed in 2023. SB 2, which we went over, strengthens concealed carry regulations by doubling training time, which is now a pain in the butt. They've increased fees, which makes it even harder. AB 28 imposes an 11% state tax on firearms and ammunition to fund school safety. Let's see. Now, this one is crazy. AB 1089 requires semi-automatic pistols sold in California have micro-stamping technology. Now, if you're not familiar with what micro-stamping is the idea that a gun hypothetically, could have the technology to put a tiny little serial number on every casing that is fired. So that way, when they find the casing, they go, oh, this is from serial number, gun, blah, 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 and it belongs to this person. Most gun companies don't have that. So basically, by requiring all gun manufacturers to include microstamping, you've effectively banned every single gun in California, because if you don't have microstamping, you can't sell in California. This is a sneaky way around just getting rid of all guns in California, because gun manufacturers are not going to go through the whole trouble of making a microstamp just for a gun in California. It's already hard enough with the California roster and stuff like that, which to me, I think the California roster actually makes it less safe, because you can't get new generations of firearms that are more safe. Instead, you're using generations, 2 or 3 generations behind, which are not as safe. So that's their sneaky way around it. And Rob Bonta, of course, said, hypothetically, the technology exists for microstamping. So, of course, we're going to keep going with it. Let's see. Enhances background checks for firearm purchases to prevent prohibited persons from acquiring guns. That makes sense. We don't want those people getting guns. Requires secure storage of firearms in homes when not carried or controlled. Prohibits firearm possession for 10 years and older. Bans ammunition possession for individuals. Mental health. Yeah, that makes sense. Requires age-appropriate and foreign accent shooter. Expands red flag laws to include threats of hate-based violence. Prohibits the sale of firearms, parts of blah, blah, blah. So, if you take a look at all of that, and you look at that list, and you go, boy, he looks like the friend of Second Amendment. And some of those are just common sense, like microstamping, common sense. It's technology that does not exist, but it's common sense. That's all common sense gun safety. And I do want to say this, kind of to wrap this all up about Gavin Newsom. He keeps suffering these losses in litigation in court, and he's going to continue to suffer them based on the new Bruin standard that's out from the Supreme Court and the historical precedents and all that. That's the new standard. He's going to continue to lose in court, but being the slippery, slick politician that he is, he's going to go on shows like the Sean Ryan Show. He's going to go tour the Midwest. He's going to go tour the South, and he's going to pretend like he's some big fan of the Second Amendment. He loves the Second Amendment. He just wants common sense. That's what he keeps saying, common sense. But when you look at all those gun laws that he has passed and that he has signed, then you go, are any of these real? Are all of these common sense? Now, some of them are common sense. Some of them you want to keep out of the hands of those with mental illness or with a criminal history, sure. Are all of them common sense? Is microstamping common sense? Is banning conceal and carry common sense? A lot of these things are not incredibly common sense, but he's passed a lot of them. Any gun law that he sees, he usually signs it. And not to mention, this is also the guy who wanted to introduce a constitutional amendment regarding gun safety, changing all sorts of things like age of, background checks, age to own a gun, all of this stuff. He wanted to introduce a new constitutional amendment. So you're going to see the pivot of Gavin Newsom on the Second Amendment. I guarantee it. He's going to pretend like he's a friend of the Second Amendment, but we have the receipts. Those are the laws that he has signed into law here in California. That's going to follow him around. So let me know in the comments. Do you think he'll be able to successfully pivot and pretend he's a friend of the Second Amendment, or do you think his past is going to catch up with him? All right. Someone said it's all charisma for his presidential run. Yeah, this is all presidential run. He's trying to get out there, and he's going on the Sean Ryan Show. I guess he's like a former Navy SEAL. I've never watched the Sean Ryan Show. So it's this idea of like, well, he's a former Navy SEAL. He gave him a gun. They're two bros. Now he's like a big tough guy, even though he has no idea how to handle a gun. That was really awkward. Maybe his political consultants are gonna have to pull him aside and say, okay, old Gavin Newsom, we're gonna have to take you to the range and show you how to handle it. I'm retired. LEO or LEQ, and didn't even notice there were this many laws. Yeah, until I actually looked it up and wrote them out, I was like, wow, that is a lot of laws that Gavin Newsom has signed into law. Shall not be infringed, and then they proceed to infringe. Yep. That's what they do. They pretend like they're not infringing, and they call it common sense. So, all right. Just looking at some more of the chat, keeping up to what you guys are saying. Yeah, and it's up to us to keep the pressure here in California. It's up to us to keep the pressure on him. So that is, it's up for us to continually bring this stuff up and then put it out there so that people see this when he runs. Like, we can't just be silent about it. We got to keep putting this stuff out there. So, all right, next story. Sacramento, run by a supermajority of the political party that pretends to be all about democracy and transparency, doesn't want to tell you what's going on with this Capitol annex and why are they building secret tunnels where they can avoid the public. Let's get into that story right now.
Construction continues, and so does the secrecy surrounding the California Capitol Annex project. Steel beams you see now will someday house the offices of state lawmakers and the governor. But exactly how much it will cost and when it will be completed is still to be seen. The Joint Rules Committee leading the project has violated the Legislative Open Records Act, refusing to acknowledge or respond to Case Area 3's latest request for its contracts with Turner Construction. The Records Act requires them to respond within 4 business days. It's been 29 since our request.
The Legislative Open Records Act actually specifies that it is a fundamental and necessary right for the public to have access to legislative documents.
Adjunct McGeorge School of Law professor Chris McKaylee is also a lobbyist and longtime Capitol observer.
And again, disclosure of the taxpayer dollars that are being expended on this project certainly are appropriate for public disclosure. But I think one of the points that is being lost here is that this is the people's house.
That's not our only hurdle with the records requests. Earlier this spring, we requested a cost estimate on how much more lawmakers plan to spend on security measures in the new building. Nearly 2 months after submitting that request with no response, Joint Rules said they did not have an estimate. We also asked, with those security measures in place, what specific spaces will journalists have to work and access lawmakers? Joint Rules responded by basically saying the public's interest is better served if it doesn't have that information.
So the public is better served. These are elected representatives in California. Remember, the party of democracy and transparency. The public is better served if you don't know. Wow. Okay. We have a shirt on our store website, and it's one of my favorites. I wear, I wear the sweatshirt. I need to get more of the stuff, but it literally says, "The elites hate you." That right there might be the perfect encapsulation of this principle that the elites hate you. They tell you, listen, peasants, you're better off not knowing. You don't need to know what's going on up here and what we're spending your tax. Just shh. We're building a nice new Capitol Annex for us, and you can just sit down and shut up and stop asking questions.
This project is less transparent than some of the top secret military projects I worked on.
Dick Cowan served on the Historic State Capitol Commission before becoming a vocal opponent of the Annex project.
Doesn't our Constitution say something about not abridging the right of a free press? I would think they would be eager to share with you in the COVID era, in the terrorist threat era. Here's how we've balanced the needs of the press to have access to the government with these new factors.
The legislature has said it plans to update the public on the project at some point this year. They have
at some point. Don't worry, peasants. At some point this year, we'll get back to you. Maybe. I don't know. You don't need to know anyway. We don't need to know what we're spending all your tax dollars on.
To say when. At the state capitol, Ashley Zavala, KCRA 3 News.
And there's this. We also reported that broad non-disclosure agreements on the project have been legally forcing 2,000 people to basically keep information about all of this under wraps. And that includes several state lawmakers and government officials. And those NDAs are still in place.
Right. That's another element is a lot of people signed NDAs regarding this. There's a lot of people who are involved in this. The planning committee, those who are working on it, signed NDAs. Basically, they can't tell you what is going on and what they're actually doing and what the contracts are for. We have no idea what they're spending money on or what they're building up there with that capital annex. They are spending a ton of our money, that's for sure. They're spending our tax dollars that we give them, but they don't feel beholden to tell us what is going on at the capital annex or what they're building. This is a snippet from a different article talking about private hallways. They're for lawmakers are called secret corridors. That's what they're dubbing them. Speaking at Institute of Governmental Advocates meeting in Sacramento, McGuire, who is the Senate pro temp leader, confirmed to dozens of lobbyists that there will be private hallways for lawmakers in the new Capitol Annex. McGuire did not deny in a statement to KCRA3, quote, secure corridors have always been included in plans for the new annex as they already exist in this space, and we designed to help ensure the safety and security of lawmakers, which is even more important today, given the events that unfolded on January 6th at our nation's Capitol building and the active threats public officials continue to face. Sources said the private hallways will now bridge the two, shielding lawmakers from the public, journalists, and lobbyists who may want to speak with them right after they vote before they get into the elevator. So, NDAs, people who worked on this project or voted on this project, planned this project, can't talk about what's going on. They won't tell you what's going on with this project. The Joint Committee rules won't tell you, because even if you require them, they're required by 30 days. They won't tell you what's going on. Right now it's 29 days. I think they missed their deadline. The story is a couple days old at this point. This was published on the 24th. It's now the 29th. So I think they missed their deadline. And now they're talking about secret corridors where they don't even have to face the public or lobbyists or reporters. This is how democracy or transparency dies. It dies right here in Sacramento, where they don't want you, because when you have a supermajority, who's going to stop you, right? When you have a supermajority, who's going to stop you? Who's going to question you? And right now, if you do see more reporters like Ashley Zavala going into Sacramento and asking these tough questions, they don't like it. Speaker Rivas is notorious for running away from reporters. If you see him in Sacramento, he does not answer any of these questions. So it is not shocking that they are being so secretive about this. And the fact that they are going to run on this January 6th thing for probably the next attorney about January 6th, and they're never going to let that, they're just going to say, this is the reason we have to do X, Y, and Z. This is why politicians have to be, secured with all this security and secret corridors and stuff like that. You start to elevate them to not politicians, but now they're lords and ladies, like actual royalty. That's sort of what they're doing with January 6th. There is something interesting. So the new office building is expected to cost as much as an NFL stadium and will end up being more expensive than the Golden One Center in Sacramento. At last check, the Capitol Annex project was expected to cost California taxpayers $1.1 billion, which I think is triple what they originally planned. And now it's going to be, this better be one heck of an annex if it's going to cost as much as a football stadium, an NFL football stadium. But it is going to be one giant secretive Capitol Annex where politicians can run and hide and not be accountable to the public, not be accountable to the journalists, not be accountable even to their lobbyist buddies, so they can run away and vote on, all these unpopular things like the laws we were just talking about. But this is the problem with a supermajority, is that they have now reached the point where they think they are above everybody else. We don't need to deem any information to you, you peasants. Just listen to us. We lord over you. We've really become a feudal state here in California. So this is where transparency and democracy goes to die, is in Sacramento, where they don't want to talk to anybody. I mean, right now, the Capitol Annex is about as transparent as what's going on with the Epstein files. So I don't know which one is more transparent, the Epstein files or the Capitol Annex. You can let me know in the comments. All right. Somebody said, spend all my money as long as you don't misgender me. Look, the high-speed rail is going to go right through it, so please respect their privacy as they build this. Yeah, maybe that's the plan, is they're going to put the high-speed rail right up to the end of it. A government agency that had a project and went over budget. I'm shocked. I know you're shocked. Thank you everyone for hanging out in the chat tonight. It's a lot of people hanging out wherever you are, whether you're on YouTube, X, IG, Rumble, all those places. Let's see. So they can shoot and ladder around without being confronted for their crimes, their failures, the personal controversy. Yep. Yeah, they don't want to answer to anybody. Anyone think that's odd when Cali is the last state to count votes, but it's done the quickest? Yeah, it does. And the Secretary of State said it would cost more money. That's what she said. She said the reason it takes so long is because it would cost more money if we counted them faster. Well, they seem to have plenty of money laying around for a capital annex with all these like bat caves and secret tunnels and all that stuff. I bet it would reveal something like the tunnel is an expensive nuke-proof bomb shelter, scaring and angering the public. Yeah, maybe they built themselves a little bunker or something like that. We're remodeling Mordor. All right, final story of the day. Let's get into it, and then we have a couple minutes. I'll hop back on the chat and chat with you guys. Karen Bass, she's had quite the year. It's been a rough year. 2025, she had wildfires, she had the protests, and then she got this interview with ABC, which I think she thought was going to be some sort of softball interview. And then when it wasn't, everything sort of unraveled for her. And she said the quiet part out loud. So let's take a look.
When you look at the raids and the deportations, just tell me who you think should be deported. Is it just people who've been convicted of crimes? You have, almost 1 million undocumented workers in Los Angeles. What should happen to those people?
So let me just say that because we are a city of immigrants, we have entire sectors of our economy that are dependent on immigrant labor. We have to get the fire areas rebuilt. We're not going to get our city rebuilt without immigrant labor. And it's not just the deportation. It's...
Just gonna throw this out there. It is illegal under U.S. code to employ illegal aliens. So is Karen Bass advocating that people need to employ illegal alien, which is committing federal crimes? Is that what she's advocating? She's telling people you should just go out and commit federal crimes. She's also saying that there's absolutely no way we could get this solved unless you just stop deportations in Los Angeles.
Fear that sets in when raids occur, when people are snatched off the street. And I know you are aware that even people who are here legally, even people who are U.S. citizens have been detained. Immigrants who have their papers and were showing up for their annual immigration appointment were detained when they showed up doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing.
So they should not be deported?
I don't think
they should stay.
Well, this is what
1 million undocumented.
No, let me just tell you what I think.
Martha asking the hardball questions here at point blank. Karen Bass, do you think the 1 million undocumented immigrants here, undocumented citizens, illegal aliens, should be allowed to stay in LA? Because that's her argument, is that, the economy will fall apart in Los Angeles if we keep these deportations. We won't be able to rebuild the Palisades. I mean, you won't be able to rebuild the Palisades mostly because the city of LA is dragging their feet when it's coming to permitting because, I don't know, there's only been like a dozen or so, out of 96 or something. Like there's only been like a dozen permits even issued in Los Angeles.
Need is comprehensive immigration reform. I served in Congress for 12 years.
And didn't get it.
And didn't get it. I have to give credit to Martha here because this is some hardball stuff. I always laugh at this because if you want to know how Democrats really don't care about this issue and they just use this issue just for political points, think of how many times Democrats have controlled the presidency in both houses of Congress and they never got something done, right? They never got something done. When Barack Obama was in office and he was immensely popular, right? Why didn't you get it done then? You've been there for 12 years. You didn't get it done. When Joe Biden was in office, you didn't get it done. So, this shows me that it wasn't a top priority for them. It's only a top priority for them now because they can kick their feet and throw a little temper tantrum about it. So for all those who think that Democrats care about this, I don't believe they actually care about this issue. It's only for politics.
And then why didn't we get it? I mean, after I left, there was an immigration reform bill that had bipartisan support. This was during the campaign. The president decided he didn't want to have it happen because he didn't want immigration reform to happen where he didn't take credit for it. But
shocker. It's Trump's fault. I've been in Congress for 12 years, and it's Trump's fault that we didn't get immigration reform. And let me see. I'm no mathematician, but let's see. Okay, 12 years ago, how many years? And then, there was Joe Biden in the middle. Right. You still had the opportunity. And Democrats still had the opportunity. So it's all Trump's fault. Right? Because you put forward this bill and the Republicans control the House and they said, no, we're not going to do it. It's Trump's fault. Yep. Forget the fact that, again, like I said, you had Barack Obama, immensely popular president back in the time. Didn't do it.
To that question of undocumented workers, I'm thinking back, and a border control agent once said to me, as we saw migrants during a very bad time for so many migrants coming across when Joe Biden was president, and you know that, just massive numbers.
Yes.
And I said, do you feel bad for these people? And the border agent said, you know what, I do, but I also know they're cutting in line in front of those people who want to do it legally in the right way.
Let me just tell you that the people that make that trek, many of whom walk from Central America and even South America up to our border, risk their lives. I don't believe that all of these people are sitting at home dreaming of coming to Los Angeles. They're coming.
Well, I mean, we can agree on that. I don't think a lot of people are dreaming of going to Los Angeles. Not in the current state it's in. I don't think a lot of people are dreaming about going to Los Angeles. So we can certainly agree there.
Here out of desperation.
No offense to people who live in Los Angeles. Just not my cup of tea. Again, I'm from San Diego. I like San Diego better.
Look, go back to Joe Biden again, okay? There was hundreds of thousands of people crossing that border.
Right.
When you look at that border today, is there anything good you think the administration has done in these 6 months at the border?
Well, I will heap praise on the administration for the first 6 months in Los Angeles with the fires.
Deflection. That's not an answer. The question was, is there anything you thought they did well on the border? Not the wildfires.
Ask me, is there anything that they have done good in terms of immigration? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that the viewpoint has been punitive, has been let's make it as miserable as possible so that these people don't come.
Are you having conversations with the Trump administration about this?
I have not recently. I have put in a request, and I hope to. I will always be open to a conversation.
So even with the Guard here, they've had no conversations.
I want to work with the administration to solve this problem. We have the World Cup in 11 short months here. We have the Olympics and Paralympics coming in 3 short years. I know that these games are very important to the president, and I look forward to working with him. And we have a extreme.
Well, I'm sure he's looking forward to working with you as well, but I don't think he wants to do the things that you want to work together on regarding deportations. There was that incident in the park where you came down, wagged your finger, and acted like, the prototypical Karen, waving at ICE and Border Patrol to get out of there. She, I think, really stepped in it in this interview. And I give credit to Martha from ABC, Martha Raddatz, who gave her hardball questions. It was not a softball interview. She basically said, look, do you believe that 1 million undocumented citizens or illegal aliens in the Los Angeles area should stay here? And she pressed her on it. Like, do you think, hundreds of thousands were pouring across the border during Joe Biden? Did you have a problem with that? And she put her into a little box. She basically made Karen Bass admit, I love open borders and illegal immigration. That's what she basically admitted in that entire interview, is that we want these people to come here. We want people to make the trek to come here. We want open borders. I had no problem with Joe Biden opening the border and letting them flood across. I had no problem with that. That is what she's basically saying. And Martha got her to admit that on camera right there in that interview. She could not defend it. She could not, for the life of her, give any sort of credit to the Trump administration for doing what they're doing. She couldn't say anything. She brought up that story about Border Patrol and how he felt bad for people who were doing it the right way and how there's people who are cutting. And there's another issue that Democrats never bring up about illegal immigration, which is a really sad issue. And I urge you can go back to our episode with Jorge Ventura, is the child trafficking that is going on at the border right now. The amount of little minor children who are ending up caught or, apprehended at the border because they are these children who you have no idea who they are with. They're not with their parents, and they're being trafficked across the border and then sent off to all parts of the country. That, to me, is an incredible tragedy that none of the Democrats ever talk about or they never bring up. But Karen Bass, in that interview, basically open admission, she's for open borders. She's for illegal immigration. We need it because we need them to rebuild the Palisades. We need it because we have the games coming. Like, this is all the stuff that she knew. We have our economy will fall apart if we get rid of all of these people. Our whole economy is based on illegal immigration. But it is interesting to see how Martha pressed her. She thought she was getting a softball interview, and instead she got a hard interview, flubbed up, and really stepped in it and said the quiet part out loud. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think that Karen Bass really said the quiet part out loud and really just let everybody know her real agenda when it comes to illegal immigration in Los Angeles? All right. Camille said in the chat, 12 years was actually Obama's second term. So thank you for the math. His entire second term. I was trying to do the math in my head. I'm trying to be like, 12 years. It's been how many years? Because 8 years, right, would have been Trump's first. So 4 years before that would have been, that would have been Obama's first or second term. So thank you for doing the math. I can do the math in my head. All right. Got a couple more minutes left. Thank you, everybody, for hopping in the chat. We got a lively chat going on. Everybody, wherever you're tuning in, if you're listening on audio, we do this show live every Tuesday so that you can join in the chat, join in the conversation. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in live and all that stuff. Let's see. I'm laughing so hard. Take your pick. The burn area, tents on the street, or the protest. Where you want to live, immigrants. Yeah, that's basically, they're dreaming about moving to Los Angeles. That's kind of, talking down to her about her city. Yeah, I found that kind of odd that she kind of talked down her own city. She's like, oh, I doubt people in Central America are dreaming about coming to Los Angeles. Like, wow, you think that Los Angeles is worse than a third world country? Oh, okay. That's nice of you to say, Karen. You think that people don't dream of coming from a third world country to Los Angeles because it's worse or not better. All right. Feds need to investigate and prosecutor. The feds, well, we did this a couple episodes ago about the concentration of illegal immigration in Los Angeles. So it makes sense why there's so much activity with ICE and Border Patrol in Los Angeles. It's the highest concentration in all of. So if you're going to really kind of chip away, Los Angeles is where it's at. Like she said, Martha said in that interview, 1 million undocumented citizens. She does have those communist ties. So that is Karen Bass. She did learn under some communists. All right. This is going to lead to balkanization if we don't solve this issue. Yeah, could be. New Olympic events for LA, homeless long jump. Oof. Use needle, jab, and throw. The chat is wild tonight. You guys are crazy. All right. Wait, I'm confused because I was told that during the Biden administration, our borders were safe and we had no invasion. Yeah, Kamala was on top of it. Kamala Harris was on top of it. Now imagine she runs for governor of California and that's an issue about the border and her borders are. Sad thing is a lot of Californians, don't really mind her stance on the border. All right. Want to thank everyone for tuning in live. Like I said, we do this every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. on YouTube, Instagram, X, Rumble, all of these places. The chat makes it even more exciting that you guys are chatting live with us. So for those who are listening on audio, you can listen on audio on Spotify, Google, Apple, all of those places. And wherever you listen, the best thing you can do that really helps this show is you can subscribe, like, share, review, especially with the audio. That definitely helps get the audio ranked a little bit better is when you start to review, leave a nice review or comment on the podcast, especially on YouTube. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. People see the interaction. That helps with the algorithm. So that you can help us with the free stuff. And if you go to californiaunderground.live, we have merch you can go check out. It's on the front page. Just launched a new shirt that I had ordered. I'm waiting on that one. It says Democrat, Republican. It's like a checkbox, Democrat, Republican. And the third option is tear it all down and start all over. I love the shirt. I think it's a really cool shirt. You can also get it on a coffee mug. So I ordered a coffee mug as well. So thank you everyone for tuning in. And the outside of merchandise and all that stuff, the one thing you can do that is 100% free that you can do is share this with somebody in California or wherever you think someone might find this show interesting to support the show. And with that, we'll see you on the next one. Later.